Freedom. The word was always on Harriet's mind now. She'd often heard her mother complain that she was supposed to be free. Now Harriet decided to find out if this was true. With the money she made hiring out her time, she paid a lawyer $5, a large sum in those days. He looked in the record books. He discovered that Rit's first owner had died. In his will, he left Rit to a woman named Mary Patterson. Rit was to serve Mary until she was 45. But Mary died young. Since there was no word about Rit in her will, Rit legally became free when she died. Rit should have been free, but no one had told her she'd been tricked. Another owner had snatched her up, and she remained a slave. Harriet realized that papers and contracts were white men's tools. She couldn't trust them to make her free. She would have to try another way. Early one morning, Harriet was working in a field that was close to a road. A neighboring white woman drove up in a buggy. She wore a plain dress of a Quaker. Seeing that no one was around, the woman stopped and spoke to Harriet. She asked her name and how she had gotten the scar on her head. Harriet told the woman her story. She knew that Quakers didn't believe in slavery and could be trusted. After this, the woman made a habit of talking to Harriet when no one was watching. Once she whispered that if Harriet ever needed help, she could come to her farm near Bucktown. Bucktown, Maryland was a tiny town near Dr. Thompson's plantation. Harriet was grateful to the white woman, yet she knew that escape would be especially dangerous for her. She might have one of her spells and be caught sleeping on the road. With the big scar on her forehead, she would be easy to recognize. So for the time being, Harriet kept the Quaker woman's words a secret in her heart. News came to the plantation that a slave trader from the South had arrived. One whispered to Harriet that she and 3 of her brothers were to be sold to him. Sold south? Harriet ran to find her brothers. She told them what she had learned. They must run away. That night, Harriet waited until her husband John fell asleep. Then she slid silently out of the cabin. She met her brothers, and they started off through the woods. Harriet took the lead. She knew the woods. They did not. Every owl that hooted, every frog that croaked startled them. They did not move very fast, and to Harriet they seemed to stomp and crash like a herd of cattle. Harriet kept encouraging them on, but at last her brothers stopped. They were frightened. They were going back. Harriet began to protest. They must go on, but her brothers were firm. It was too risky. At last, Harriet said that she was going north alone, but her brothers didn't think she should. They grabbed her. She fought them tooth and nail, but 3 men were too many for her. They forced her to walk back to the plantation. Only 2 days passed before a little water boy whispered more news to Harriet as she worked in the field. She and her brothers had been sold. The slave trader was coming for them that same night. What should she do? What was she to do? If she stayed, she would be put in the chain gang. She knew she would die on the long walk south. But if she ran, who would go with her? Not her 3 brothers. Not her husband, John. John might even help the men with guns and bloodhounds who were sure to come after her. If Harriet ran, she would be all alone. There's one of 2 things I've got right now. I've got a right to liberty or death, Harriet explained years later. If I could not have one, I would have the other. No man will take me back alive. Harriet straightened up and walked away from the field. She must let someone know that she was leaving. Otherwise, her family might think she was headed south with the dreaded chain gang. Harriet saw Rit walking toward her on her way to milk a cow. But she knew she couldn't tell her mother Rit. Rit would make a great fuss. As Rit grew near, Harriet told her to go back to the cabin. Harriet said that she would do the milking that night. This was Harriet's goodbye to her mother. After she milked the cow, Harriet went to the big house. She planned to find her sister Mary, who worked there. She could trust Mary with her secret. Mary was in the kitchen, but several other slaves were too. Harriet needed to tell Mary in private, so she pretended to wrestle with her sister. She pulled her outside away from the others. Harriet was about ready to tell Mary that she was running away. But before she could, Dr. Thompson rode up to the house on his horse. He would not be happy to see two slaves chattering during work hours. Mary made a dash for the kitchen. As she hurried away, Harriet did the only thing she could think of. She began to sing. "I'm sorry, friends, to leave you. Farewell, oh farewell. But I'll meet you in the morning. Farewell, oh farewell. I'll meet you in the morning when you reach the promised land on the other side of Jordan, for I am bound for the promised land." That evening, Harriet did nothing to call attention to herself. She went to bed as usual and waited until she was sure John was sleeping soundly. Then she got up. She packed a little cornbread and salt pork in a bandana. Then she folded up the beautiful quilt she had made. She was taking it with her. Silently, Harriet made her way through the dark woods. She remembered how Ben had told her that even bloodhounds couldn't follow a scent through water. So Harriet waded in the streams whenever possible. Her long skirt heavy with mud. She came to the farmhouse of a Quaker woman. Trembling, she knocked on the door. When the Quaker woman saw that it was Harriet, she quickly let her in. But the woman told Harriet it wasn't safe for her to stay at the farmhouse. Harriet must travel on that very night. The Quaker woman explained to Harriet that she had more than 90 miles to go before she would cross the Mason-Dixon line to freedom. First, she must follow the Choptank River north for 40 miles. The river would become narrower as it reached its source. When the river ended, Harriet should follow the road to Camden, Delaware. Just outside the town, she should look for the white house with green shutters. On a small slip of paper, the woman wrote down a message for the Huns, the people who lived in the White House. When she got there, Harriet should give the paper to them. They would tell her what to do next. The Huns' house would be Harriet's first stop on the Underground Railroad. As Harriet was leaving the farmhouse, she felt very grateful to the Quaker woman for her helping her. She wanted to repay her kindness, but she had no money. She had one thing she valued. Harriet gave the woman her beautiful quilt.